Now, first, broader question on the term unified support system. It has to be defined and then expanded upon. And it takes so much to bring so many departments and states and specialities together to make it a unified support ecosystem. Could you elaborate on that term and in your views, how does the unified support ecosystem will play?
Look, thanks, Dev. And first of all, it's my pleasure to be here with you all. And I join in your earlier recognition of the traditional owners of this land and pay my respects to Aboriginal elders, past and present and emerging. Look, friends, I think one of the reasons I'm here, Dev, is because I was one of the commissioners on the Disability Royal Commission. And I have to say, I read and reread the NDIS review many times. And let me say that my first impression of it is it's an incredibly thoughtful document, which I think calls out some very important issues. Actually, Holly made reference to a couple of them. I do think that they quite rightly called out the departure of the states. And let me just indulge a bit of Catholic guilt on my part. I was a state public servant at the time when the NDIS was introduced. And I was there under the instructions of people who were more senior to me, making sure that we made the best of what was available under the NDIS before we spent any state money. And let me tell you, that was due in part, look, before we just beat up on the states entirely, it was due in part to a design flaw in the NDIS to start with. It invited the states to that behaviour because a guarantee was made to them that the Commonwealth would pick up the tab for any increased spending under the NDIS. So it was a very real problem. Now look, I used to practice the dark art of politics once. I entirely understood that there was a good reason for that design flaw. It was to make sure that the NDIS would be universal. It was a tough thing to introduce, and it made sure that it was universally supported by everyone, regardless, to use Polly's terms, whether it was red or blue. So it was a design flaw designed for a time and place. Its time and place has come and gone, and it's time for us to repair that flaw, whatever reason it was there. I've learnt in the last few days, just to try and change the tone of this conversation a little bit. I appreciate the comments my friend Holly, Senator Hughes, made, but can I say I've learnt a really good word recently that I think applies to this discussion in the disability field, and it's irenic. It's the ability to discuss something vigorously but aim towards peaceful resolution. It's not about having this discussion in a rough way and scoring points and all of that sort of thing. Former politician, I've left that sort of dogfight behind. It had its place. I used to do it. I don't do it now. I don't know how you feel, our former member for Herbert, but one of the great things about being involved in politics is leaving it. And I've had a really good life since. And can I say, I simply urge that this discussion happens vigorously, but with a view to being peaceful in its resolution, because we need to have an answer. We can't just have the fight. The fight's got to end. There is a vigorous discussion, for example, about special schools, and there's a vigorous discussion about whether group homes should stay open, and there's a vigorous discussion about what the state and Commonwealth should do. Let's have this discussion vigorously, robustly, on a factual basis, but do it with a view to finding a resolution and finding peace. It's fun having a brawl, I used to do that, but it's not very productive. So I'd simply say, I thank you for that, and I think that's the way we all have to produce this, and it was an experience. I wished I'd knew that word ironic. When I was on the Royal Commission, it would have been very handy. But anyway,